everybody, Michelle McClunan here, astrologer and life coach, and I'm coming to you with an astrology update on the eclipses that are coming up, starting with a lunar eclipse tomorrow, the 5th of June. Now most years we have 4 eclipses. This year we have 6, and eclipses are always quite pivotal turning points. They're much more powerful than normal full moons and new moons, because they have an energy that spans much longer. So the start of this eclipse season aligns with what we call the nodes of the moon, which move into a new sign. And when they move into a new sign, there's a new energy that comes forth. And they've just moved, or they're moving right now, into the sign of Gemini and Sagittarius on the Gemini Sagittarius axis, which is what actually is aligned with these eclipses that are happening on the same axis. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but we're going to start with the eclipse that we have tomorrow. So this eclipse is basically opening a gateway to this eclipse season. And so tomorrow is the lunar eclipse, and then it's followed by a solar eclipse on the 21st of June, which is basically on the same day as the solstice, and then another lunar eclipse on the 5th of July. And then there'll be one at the end of the year. Actually, there'll be 2 at the end of the year, one on the November the 30th and one on the 14th of December, and we had one in January. So big eclipse year, big turning points, big evolution of humanity is accelerated when we have a year like this, not to mention everything else that we've been speaking about astrologically and energetically. So this is just one element of it. So these nodes have changed, and so have the eclipses. This one tomorrow is actually at the same degree as what they call the Great Attractor, which is apparently a very potent part of the universe, and it sort of supercharges anything that's at that same degree. So it's at 14-15 degrees Sagittarius. So wherever in your chart those degrees are, that's the themes that are going to be activated. And those of you who've had your charts done will know that the different houses have different energies. So for example, if you have 15 degrees Sagittarius and onwards, so sort of say for the next 10-15 degrees, then that house or those houses will actually be triggered and not affected, but they'll be involved with this kind of turning point, if you like. So let's just say, for example, that you have your 15 degrees Sagittarius in the first house of self and the 7th house of partnership, then that is the axis where there'll be change and shifts and evolution, literally. Or for example, if it's in your 6th house of work, it'll be work related. These eclipses, this eclipse season and this moving of the nodes into Sagittarius and Gemini basically is connected to about 18 and a half years ago. So it started at the end of 2010 and went to 2013. So whatever was going on in your life then, this is kind of a closing of this and the ushering of a new level of understanding, of truth, of your personal growth, really. So it's a beautiful theme to actually look at. When you look at the energy of this eclipse, this is where it gets quite interesting. So it's a very fiery energy, this particular one tomorrow. And you might have felt that energy building over the last few days. Basically, it's a fire sign. Sagittarius is a fire sign. It's a mutable fire sign, which means changeable, moving energy. It's very quickly changes. It's quite a restless energy, Sagittarius. It's fanned by the sun being in Gemini, which is air. So air fans the fire. Now, Gemini is the sign of information. And at the moment we have information overload. And that is fanning the fires in us. It might be fanning the fire of anger or rage or indignation at having our liberties taken away, our freedom, which is Sagittarius. at not having freedom of speech, which is Gemini and Sagittarius. So it's fanning the flames of that, but obviously deeper inside us, it's fanning something much more potent and much more important. So at this time, we might feel bombarded by the media and by misinformation. So this particular eclipse is, so you've got the sun and the moon opposite each other, which you always have at a full moon. And it's a lunar eclipse is basically let's just call it a supercharged full moon. Squaring that axis, you actually have Mars and Neptune, which are sitting together. Okay, now in Pisces. Now it's quite an interesting mix, because whenever Mars is in the picture, he activates and sort of animates things and can create a level of angst, of anger, of rage. So there's that. But also on the upside of that, he can give us energy to fuel us to actually move forward. So that's Mars. Okay, Mars is in Pisces, which is quite a gentle place to have Mars. It's quite diffused energy, but it's Mars nevertheless. And Mars wants to go out there and conquer the world and fight for justice, fight for freedom. That Sagittarius rules freedom, justice, morals, truth. This eclipse season is like a truth serum, really. That's the way I see it. The other thing is that Mars and Neptune are together, which means that Neptune's in this equation as well. And Neptune is very, very different from Mars. Neptune is connected with spirituality, with higher learning, with our true connection. But on the flip side of Neptune, there can also be misinformation, diffused illusion, delusion, being hoodwinked into things that aren't true, going along with the crowd because that's what we are being fed. That's Neptune. It's deceptive, can be deceptive. So when we look at all the energies at play, the way I'm seeing it is to really find our truth center, that which is true for us. So instead of just, seeing something and posting it because somebody else posted it, or because that's what the media said, I believe that this is a time in the greater context for us to really find out what's true for ourselves, finding our own truth. And we can only really find that when we're connected and we're balanced. And this energy is not particularly balanced. We might find that we are very fired up. As I said just before, we might find that anger rises to the surface, as well as grief and sadness. So you might be going like on a wave of sort of emotional spikes. 1 minute feeling quite indignant and ready to fight the establishment and fight everything that's wrong in the world, and then on the other hand just be stricken by great sadness for what's happening, and which could activate your own grief, your own sadness. It always does. So whenever we have an initiation or a trigger of sadness or anger from the outside, it's triggering something that's inside for us that needs to be dealt with and felt. So I would say that this is a time to be gentle with yourself. Make sure that you ground. It's very fiery energy. If you don't need to be out there in the mayhem, don't be. If media is activating your adrenals and sort of leading to what you might feel is a little bit of burnout, then leave it alone. Just switch it off. Or have moments or have hours where you just don't look at anything. Because this really is, without going into too much astrology, this is a very, very high time of a lot of information coming at us. And it can be overwhelming and it can be exhausting. So what I'm really saying is look after yourselves, be sure to ground that energy. So when I say ground it, let it land. So if anxiety comes up, feel it fully as you can without projecting it. Just remembering that when we're projecting it, we're not feeling it. We're projecting it, which means that we're deflecting it onto something or somebody else. So it's very easy to write, an angry comment at something someone's posted. But I would suggest that we actually rather feel what we're feeling in that moment about the comment. What is it bringing up for us that we need to deal with? And then if you feel that you need to comment, do that in an equanimous way, in a balanced way, as opposed to feeding the fire. Because at the moment, a lot of fear is being sown by a lot of people and a lot of media. So we can choose whether we're going to feed that with more anger and more rage and spread more anger and more rage, or we're going to bring something else to the party. Do we want to post more horror stories? Is it necessary? Is it helpful? Maybe it is. Maybe you feel that it is, but run it through that filter first. Is what I'm posting going to help, or is it going to actually add to the fear and add to the overwhelm and add to the trauma that people already are under? So I think that's really important as a theme, and this is going to go for the rest of the year and into next year. Eclipse seasons always last for 18 months. So whatever's happening now will have roots and will have, not roots, but will have an effect of 18 months, and it goes back to 18 years ago. So anything that was happening 18 years ago, between 2010 and 2013, it could be activating that theme again, and it could be that you're actually reaching a new level of your evolution in that regard. So it won't be just going around the same circle, it'll be that you've actually got another layer of wisdom. Sagittarius is also the sign of wisdom. So Sag is the sign of wisdom, morals, truth, justice, freedom, liberation, communication, disseminating communication. What are you disseminating? What are you putting out there into the world? And that's our personal choice. What we choose to take in and consume and what we choose to give out. That is our choice. What is put out there is not our choice, but how we deal with it and what we do with it is our choice. Remembering also that we still have a whole batch of planets retrograde. We've got Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, and Venus. And Venus in her retrograde cycle, she's a personal planet, so we feel it very personally. I spoke about that in my last vlog, which you can have a look at. If you just go to my website, you'll see it there. But Venus really is the reassessment of our values, the reassessment of what's important to us, the reassessment of our love relationships, and that's our love relationship with ourselves and others. It can be a reassessment and a re-looking at and a reflecting on our finances. What do we need to do in that area? Because Venus also rules money. So she'll still be retrograde for a while, so that's actually happening as well as the others. So Jupiter retrograde is reassessing our opportunities, reassessing where we feel restricted or expanded, reassessing our own truth, our higher learning, what we've learned from this COVID period and what we've learned over this year so far. That's Jupiter. Then you've obviously got Pluto and Saturn, which I've spoken a lot about. Reassessing our judgments, reassessing our structures. This is a time of going back. So as frustrating as that is, because most of us want to move forward with our lives, it doesn't seem like that's really happening. So whether or not, we've had a little bit of a break in South Africa now where we've gone down to level 3 of this COVID thing. That's a little bit of a relief. Astrologically, it doesn't look like it's over. So whether there's going to be another wave, which is possible, or whether it's just going to be the fallout of this in terms of the economic repercussions and the social repercussions of this remains to be seen. But I think that the message is very clear that we need to find the truth in ourselves. We need to, this is a spiritual jump for us. It's to actually really fully connect with who you are on a very deep level. And I do believe that we are evolving as a species, and I do believe that nothing's going to be the same completely after this. whatever that looks like, and that the way we're going to navigate the changes that are still coming is to actually center ourselves and find that freedom within ourselves as opposed to the outside world. So I hope that helps, and I hope that you have a good eclipse. Eclipses are always, full moons are always time to release, let go. It's always a culmination point. So just be aware that it's a culmination point. You might feel fantastic, which is awesome, or you might have things coming up to the surface. So be gentle with yourself. Feel the fire. Work with the fire. If the fire is going to activate you and motivate you, great. If it's going to overwhelm you, then calm it down. Have a bath. Lie down. Look at one candle flame. Don't look at 1,000. Bring your energy in. Sagittarius is the sign of mutable fire, which is the sparks of fire that just fly out all over the place, wanting truth and wanting meaning and trying to find information. And I think that this is a narrowing down process. Just bring the energy in. Sit in the garden, ground yourself, put your feet on the earth, have a cup of something delicious, feed your soul. You need it at this time. Be very gentle. If you're tired, lie down if you can. Rest. Have moments of doing nothing in the middle of the day. That really does help to balance. And that's what I'm getting energetically that we all need to do. It's just to find the center point. Stay in the center. Don't go off into the hurly-burly of that spinning wheel, because it's likely that we spin out if we do that. So apart from that, just to remind you that John and I have been putting together our Journeys of Awakening website. We're in the middle of our wonderful Journey to Freedom course, and we're having such beautiful times with our community there. And we're going to be launching another one, so watch the space for the dates on that one. And we've got what we call the treasure chest, or the resource section, where we put in copies of all our videos and our teachings there. And if you don't know already, we meet on a Wednesday night at 7:30 to 8 on John's page. I'll put the link in to my newsletter. And that's a meditation, just a meditation and a little bit of a chat. It's only half an hour. So please join us there, it's free. And on Sunday evenings, we do an hour. And we usually have a theme there, which we reveal kind of during the week sometime. So join us there. It's beautiful. We've got a beautiful community that are joining us often. And it's a really nice, centralizing, supportive place to be. So join us. Lots of love. Take care. Mwah.